Thank you, Phil. Would I stop at like 8:55?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you for having me. I'm Ricky. I'm an alcoholic. Grateful to be here tonight, alive and sober. And thank you, Phil, for the invitation for the, to come out here and share a message of hope and just recovery and just, enjoying sobriety. That's my ultimate goal, is to stay in touch with this process and, just to further develop my relationship with God, who's restored me to some kind of sanity, whatever that means to me. I'm still kind of nuts. It's just not as obvious today, because I'm not drinking, but I'm still crazy, So yeah, I'm Ricky. I'm an alcoholic. My sobriety date is August 10th of 1998. I have a sponsor. His name is Mike. I got a couple of guys that I help out, and they say I'm their sponsor, but like really God's doing the work for them. I just kind of, guide them along. So, but I live in Danbury, Connecticut. Originally, I'm from Little Rock, Arkansas, born and raised, and I'm a Razorback fan. So congrats Tennessee, but that's another issue right there. So I'll leave it at that. But love sports, but I love being sober even more. I love my relationship with God today even more, and it wasn't always like that for me. I was, I just wanted to read a passage out of the big book before we get along, and this was. This is me, during. And so the alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others. Hearts are broken, sweet relationships are dead, affections have been uprooted. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that sobriety is enough. He is like the farmer who came up out of his cyclone cellar to find his home ruined. To his wife, he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, Ma. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing?" And so now, I had made this journey on this long period of reconstruction. It wasn't always like that. So like I said, I'm born in Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm the oldest of six. My mother was, she was one of nine. Grew up in a very religious. My grandfather was a Southern Baptist minister, and so I'm one of the church kids. I grew up in church and I loved God, and I knew of God. I thought I knew God, but there was always this kind of like a partness in me. And I never knew what it was. I mean, I was a good kid, great family, raised the right way. Yes, ma'am. No, sir. Thank you, please. All of those good qualities were instilled in me. And my family was very loving, grew up in a great neighborhood. It was just religion, And so I grew up like that. And there was always I was just an anxious kid, restless, irritable, shy, sad, self-pity. And I thought it had nothing to do with anything that was going on with me internally. I just thought, maybe I'll get some new friends, I'll get a new pair of sneakers, I'll get a new bike, and all those things happened and nothing changed in me, And so you go to school and you grow up, you go to church, and, some days are better than others. And for me, it was just, I like church. I love my grandmother, my grandfather. And so as you grow up, I mean, I think we start to get a little bit of independence, and I started to get a little bit more restless. And some of the guys in the neighborhood were doing some things that, I was told you shouldn't be doing. They were smoking, and, they were sneaking beers from, some other guys in the neighborhood who were a little over and had some access to it and stuff like that. And, one night I think I was 14, when I had my first drink. Growing up, you get a toothache or something like that, you'd get a little hot toddy mix, a little whiskey, a little honey and lemon, and you take it and you go to sleep. That was, that's what I knew about alcohol, And so this one night I was, it was just, we're going to go out and we're going to drink tonight, and I had this drink, and it was like Seagram 7 or something like that. I don't even recall, but it was Seagram 7 and Sprite, and some cigarettes were passing around, and some other stuff was going on in my cousin's father's car, and I took this drink, and so all of those years from being 6 and 8 and 9 and not feeling a real a part of, just different for no reason at all. I just felt it was something in me that I didn't know at the time, but I took this drink, and it was this feeling that just kind of like it stole over me, and I started to feel a part of it last. It was like I'd been living life in black and white, and I took this drink, and it just all of a sudden life was in color. I was funny, It was just something that happened. It was some magic was going on in that car that night. I blacked out, and that was to be the story of my drinking moving forward for the next 20 years. So I drank, I had this feeling, I got drunk, I blacked out, and don't know, don't rightly remember the rest of the night, but I came to on my grandmother's couch. I wasn't even at home. I was on my grandmother's couch, and as I was, pulling out of this little fog, I thought, man, I want to do that again, and I don't even know what I did really, but I just knew it was something to do with liquor, and the chase was on, and so certainly at 14, I wasn't drinking every day, but every chance that I got, I certainly, took my share of it. There's some alcoholism in my family, and at the time it was, not really talked about. My mom had an identical twin sister, my Aunt Betty. She died of, something related to her drinking in a bar, and, I had a couple of friends, they had some uncles, and I had a couple of cousins that were, they were alcoholics because when they stopped drinking, they shook, they rattled, they rolled. And, my cousin Lynn, she was probably, 10 or 12 years older than me, but she was really bad, and one night, her mom used to have to kind of like, house sit her. She'd have to kind of just like leave somebody around with her. And her brother and I, we had to like babysit her for 3 or 4 hours, and Lynn was going through some real bad DTs at the time. She was, I'm not saying she's an alcoholic, but she had a drinking problem, and that what makes a problem is a problem. And so for me, that was some of the experiences that just kind of like, they blew by me. I thought nothing of it. I won't be like them. And so I went on, high school, college, went to the Army, I'd come to Connecticut, probably I was 15 years old, and fell into the crowd of, like boys that were, they like athletics and they like to drink beer and, do the other things that was a part of just, becoming a young man. And so, for me, it was just, I just really wanted to fit in. Now, meanwhile, I'd had this relationship with a God that like, I love God, but moving forward, as I get a little bit more independence, I start to pull away from him. I become one of these wanderers of faith. And, you look up and I'm lost. I'm out like a man on an island by himself and I don't know how to get back to shore, and so I drank and I drank. I drank myself out of the Army, a couple of good careers. And, like Bill says, gradually things got worse. I mean, it wasn't over yet. I was to spend the next like 10 years. I'd moved here to Connecticut um, to live with my aunt, and I made her life a nightmare for 8 or 10 years. I mean, they would chase me and, try to lock me up and, I'd get jobs and lose jobs and, fights and, everything that go along with, like growing up in the 80s, and the 90s. I was the club dude. But really, I became so unpredictable that my friends, they'd stopped inviting me out to places. And I hadn't even noticed, like, a bunch of these guys, I just didn't see them around anymore. And the next time they saw them, they'd had careers, they'd had a couple of kids by now, they'd bought a house, they'd gotten married. And, I'm still trying to figure out where to party at. That's me, I'm that dude. And so, so I really don't know what's going on with me. I think that I have this delusion that I will be able to control my drinking and enjoy it. And I never knew that, like, if I was trying to control it, that was a problem right there. I couldn't control it. I never could. If I started, I was going to get drunk. That was the end result of my drinking. And, I never knew that, like, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, there was something going on inside of me that, like, I had no idea. My family knew about it because they would tell me, "You're sick." And that was the closest thing to the truth that I'd heard in a long time. It just went over my head. I didn't know how sick I really was, spiritually sick. I was bankrupt in that aspect of life. And I think for me, it was just, I knew I needed something. I just didn't know what it was. I needed something. I knew I needed help because I'd starting to lose my friends. Like I said, they were growing up and leaving the bars, and I'd see them on occasion. I'm still trying to figure out who's got the next six pack, you know? And so like I said, I lived with my aunt, and I'd lost my last job. It was, got into an accident. I was drinking, and, the boss said, "We got to let you go, Ricky." All my other friends had, the girls, they had just, this is over. And there was nothing going on except, well, hey, it's me, Ricky. It's like, yeah, but it's the drinking, and I never wanted to look at the drinking. It was the only thing that was going on that kind of like made my life make any sense. But it really wasn't the drinking. That was the problem. It was something inside of me right here, that just, I had to kind of get a grip on that. I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was drinking because I wanted to, and every drink I took, it was against my will because I'd come to the next day and think, I'm not drinking today. And the moment my feet hit the floor, I was looking for the next one, you know. And so, I like I said, I lived with my aunt, and she had been kind of just like, you got to do something about your drinking, because that's what they saw on the inside. I couldn't tell them that I was hurt, and I've got this shame and this guilt and all these other negative emotions that are just eating me alive. But I can't tell anybody about that because I don't want to get vulnerable. You'll think I'm weak, and I lived in kind of a cutthroat world where it's you don't show any signs of weakness because that means somebody will get over it. And so if anybody's getting over, it's going to be me doing it first. You might get me later, but I'll get you first. And so I couldn't show any signs of weakness. I just didn't have enough courage to show some. All I had to do was just say, hey, I need help, but I couldn't do that. And so my aunt, wonderful woman, she my mom's older sister, she tolerated me until she didn't want to tolerate me anymore. And this one night she just she'd been chasing me for a couple of years. You got to do something about your drinking. And so this one night, for me, it was reasonable. It was 1:30 in the morning. I'm coming to her house, and, I'm banging on her door, and she's got to go to work in the morning. And, she opens the door. She came down. She didn't scream or yell. She just said, you got to do something about your drinking or you can't live here anymore. And then I don't have anywhere else to go. I mean, I'd lost my last job a couple of months ago, so I'm just out in the streets. And so, I just went upstairs and went to bed and had no idea about recovery or Alcoholics Anonymous or alcoholism or anything like that. I had a friend, Joe. He'd gotten pancreatitis, and his parents they put him in rehab. He stopped drinking, but he didn't stop doing all the other outside, issues, the non-approved AA substances. So that's what I knew about not drinking, but I didn't know anything about it. And so I wound up at the Department of Social Services here in Danbury. And, this guy's doing my assessment, and he says, how can I help you? And I just said, I can't stop drinking, and he said, I got you. And he hooked me up, and he did this assessment, and then probably about an hour later, there was this guy there waiting, and he took me to my first detox, and I started to become separated from alcohol. So I went there, and I was thinking, well, maybe I'm going to get a grip on this thing, and I'll be able to go out and, kind of drink with a little honor and a little dignity and drink like a gentleman. And, but that wasn't my story. My experience was I came and, I hung around AA for a little bit. I'd gotten a couple of guys that screamed and yelled at me for a minute, and, didn't really fully, concede to my innermost self. My surrender was kind of shaky, and I drank again after about 90 days or so, and it started that cycle again, sometime in, the day after Father's Day in May, I started to drink again, and not every day, not like I was accustomed to drinking, which was, if I'm awake, I'm drinking, but so I drank again, and this time, near the end, this was like August the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th. I was just drinking around the clock. I couldn't stop. I couldn't get enough in me, but it wasn't working. And all of the things that I had been trying to mask and cover up, they were just coming to the surface. The booze had stopped working for me, and I had a little bit of information, about alcoholism and this process of recovery, that like the booze wasn't effective anymore. It just, made the shame and the guilt even worse, because I knew like there's a solution to my problem. I just need to go out and embrace it. And so, this Monday morning, August 10th, 1998, I said, God help me, and I know I was going to be okay from there. And I checked myself back in detox for well, God got me into detox. I didn't do it. God got me into detox, and they just happened to have a bed for me. And I had met, a couple of guys there in the early part of the year. Back in it was late February, early March. I was really, really kind of just what they used to say, mocused at the time. I don't even remember dates or anything like that. But this next time I went, Monday morning, August 10th, that's my honest sobriety date. That was the day that I conceded to my innermost self that it's the booze, and what am I going to do about it moving forward? So these two gentlemen, Drew and Stan, they were like Laurel and Hardy. Drew was like, he was like 5'6", and Stan was this guy. He was like 6'6", tall guys. And they came in and just impressed upon me the importance of having a foundation in step one, and then I'm okay with that, and now move on. What am I going to do about it from there? I know it's the drink, but it's not really the drink that's the problem. It's something in me that I need a spiritual fix to. A spiritual fix, not just to stop drinking, because if I could stop drinking on my own, I wouldn't be here, but I couldn't stop on my own. And so I needed to get even deeper than that, and so I get out of detox, and, I'm fully I'm done drinking for good. And I meet this man, Steve, Serenity Steve, that's what they call him. It's a guy, kind of a mild-mannered guy, looked like Clark Kent, 50 years older, and probably just about 50 pounds heavier, but he was my Superman. He came to me, and, I asked him to be my sponsor. And, the other gentlemen were some nice guys, but I just didn't, I couldn't take the beating that they were, administering. I think it was their brand of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I needed my AA from the book. I needed mine from the book. And so Steve was from the book, and this is what we'll do. And I kind of asked him, what do you need me to do? And I'm looking to fight, you don't tell me what to do. And Steve said to me, he used some of these old timer tricks on me. He said, I'll show you, he said, I'll show you what I did, and I was disarmed right there. His approach was just magnificent, and he didn't even ask me if I believed in God. I talked to him about God and stuff like that, but I was kind of I thought I was on the outs with God, but he just said, believe that I believe. He didn't even tell me to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, which was kind of big back in the day. And, you call me every day at 6 o'clock, and if you don't call, you get a new sponsor and sit down and shut up. And you don't know anything about being sober. And these were the guys that were getting guys through the steps. But in the end, I just I didn't like that brand of sobriety. I wanted to be peaceful. I wanted to be happy, joyous, and free. And that's what Steve offered me, And so we started to get into the steps, and, he talked to me a little bit about himself, and he started to become my God. I fell in love with that man, and Steve was this guy that he showed up when he showed up, everything that was going on in my life. He never demanded anything from me. And he said, if you're struggling, give me a call. He never said call me every day. He just said, if you're struggling, give me a call. And everybody else was calling their sponsor every day. So I figured maybe I'll just call Steve every day. I needed to call Steve every day, He didn't even say do this 90 and 90. He said, if you can get to a meeting every day, get to a meeting every day. If you can't, that's no big deal. But just, try to get to a meeting every day. And I wound up, I did over 100 meetings in 90 days. I'm doing some clinical support and stuff like that. And I started to kind of notice that this AA was this Alcoholics Anonymous, the people there, they knew me, they were waiting on me to come. This book was here. It was like they'd been following me around, And so once I got done with all of this clinical support, I'm fully in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm in it. I got a coffee commitment. I'm starting to greet new people as they come in. I'm starting to like the old timers, and these guys that are gruff and the love and tolerance has started to come to me, and so Steve is continuing to work with me. And, I think he just knew when I was ready to go on with the rest of the program. He didn't push me, but he talked to me about spirituality and, being restored to sanity and building a relationship with the God that will solve my problems. He will relieve my obsession of drinking all that other insane stuff that I did for some relief, and it started to work, And I remember what happened with me was this one afternoon, it was probably, I can't even recall like how long I'd been like not drinking, but I'm certainly getting on the beam of recovery. I mean, I'm all the way in, I'm sitting all the way down. I'm drinking the coffee, you know, and this one night I went home and I just thought, oh my goodness, like this was the miracle that I needed. It was like I hadn't thought about a drink that whole day, you know. That was the miracle. The obsession was gone. It was broken, and all I did was just show up at meetings. I prayed a little bit in the morning. I'd gotten a big book, and I had this printer, and I cut the promises out, and I hung them up over this place that I'd started. I'm employable again, like I'm employable. I got a job, and then I'm starting to like become part of the family again, But I hung the promises up, and I just like whatever it takes. I'm not going to drink today, that no matter what. I'm not picking up. And so Steve started to become my guy, and I was on board with him. And I think in a couple of months, he says, okay, you're ready to do your fourth step, you're ready to do your fourth step. He didn't even say like, you got to be believing in God. He said, if you have enough willing to go through with the rest of this process, then you're ready to do your fourth step. This second step thing was the one that kicked me because like, once that obsession was gone, that's when I started to call God by name, again, not my family's God. I had to set all of that stuff aside because that God was, he was a loving God, but he was punishing and he was vengeful and he was condemning and I was afraid of that God. And Steve just said, build your own, put all the qualities that you'd want in a best friend, patient, tolerant, understanding, forgiving, and he said, make that your God. And that's what I did, and and I went on with the rest of the steps, and Steve helped me get through this thing, these resentments and fears and, personal relationships, including sex and, things like that. And, some of the people that were on my list were my aunt, my mother for sure, my grandma who passed in 1986. That lady loved me, she was praying for me. I know she was, that's why I'm here, but I owed her an amends that I didn't get to make to her. But here's what happens nowadays. It's just like I try to be that grandson that she wanted me to be. I think they had designs on me going into like some seminary school or like that. They wanted me to be a preacher, but like I want to play basketball and drink beer. But what happened was Steve gets me to identify like, it's not even the booze or the drugs or all the other self-destructive living that was going on was the problem. It's like it's me, I'm selfish, I'm self-centered, I'm full of fear and self-pity and all those things. And you know what? I blamed everybody else for it, and I made their life a nightmare because they are, I stole their peace of mind, you know, and so once I get this list written and, I started to talk to Steve about it, and I'm looking and I'm saying, oh my goodness, I've been in trouble all along, not even the booze. They saw the booze, they saw me drunk, but like what was going on, like I talked about, was I couldn't tell them, and so I had to move on from that, and tried the best I could to master these resentments and these fears, and these personal relationships. And, I started to become a part of the family again. There's a lot of years that like I wasn't even invited anywhere. I knew what was going on, but they didn't invite me because they know he probably ain't gonna show up anyway. You know, and so they stopped inviting me. Tons of family pictures that like you don't see Ricky in. You know, and I was looking and I thought, oh my goodness, I wonder what I was doing that day. Probably somewhere drinking. You know, and so I started to get into 6 and 7. You know, I don't know what's good for me, but I know what's bad for me. And I like to do what's bad for me, especially when I'm drinking. And so now the problem has been removed, a symptom of the problem that's driving me. And so I get into 6 and 7. That's God's job. I got nothing to do with that, He's going to put me in a situation where I need to exercise like whatever virtue is going to come: patience, tolerance, compassion, understanding, all of those things, which I just thought were for not for me, you know. But these are the things that I've been trying to get to for years. You know, I just thought I could find them in the bottle, you know, honestly. You know, I thought I could, because it'd make me a little funnier, you know, a little more. As I used to say, yeah, I'm just this humble dude, you know, and I was thinking, you know, when I got here, I don't know anything about humility or being humble. I still don't, you know, but I'm trying to work on it, you know. I'm letting God do his part with me. And, you know, I just keep showing up. I'm where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there, you know. And so for me, this was like a ride that like I'd never even imagined. I didn't come here to find God or new friends or anything like that. I just wanted a little relief, you know. Maybe I could get away from the drink or you know anything else that's going on for a little bit, but then I'm going to go back to it. But what happened was, with Steve is my guy, you know. He like God started to show up and like I started to transform. My family saw it, you know, something different about Ricky, you know, they saw it. I remember my aunt used to be, she was, I used to call her my trigger, but like I said, I'm the problem, you know, and I lived in her house. I ate her food. I generated garbage. I dirtied clothes, you know, and she would ask me, hey, Ricky, you're going by the dumpster. Can you take the garbage out? And here I am. I'm going to snap because, you know, I got to do some work around the house. Can you wash the dishes? You know? And so what happened was, as I started to get sober, and now I'm getting sober, I'm on the beam and I'm like beyond not drinking. I am enjoying sobriety. You know, I'm living it, you know. And so what happened was, it was, you know, one day she'd ask and I can tell that she was being a little button pushy, you know. And I started to like, I felt myself kind of like, you know, here he comes again. And so I just said, I'll be right back. And I took a walk for like 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and I was just thinking, like, what's the matter with you, dude? You know, like God's got this. So what happened was I went back and, you know, I took the garbage out, you know, I took the garbage out and then I washed the dishes. You know, I didn't do laundry that day, but I went in there and my aunt, she loves the Mets, you know, and I sat down and we watched the Mets game. I don't recall who they were playing, maybe the Braves or something like that. But like we watched the game and we start to rebuild our relationship on that platform, you know. And so now I'm in her house, you know, and I see the garbage full and I just take the garbage out, you know, or I'd see the dishes and I'd wash the dishes, or I'd throw a couple of loads of laundry in, you know. Those are the things that I wanted to be doing. And now, you know, here's what's happening is we're having dinner at 6 o'clock. And you know what? I'm showing up. Oh my goodness, it's all I ever wanted, you know, being a part of the family again. And so my family, my main family is in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I've seen them in a lot of years, you know. And so I love my mother, you know, and so I'd go back and, you know, we get together and I'm doing my thing with her. And then she came here to visit her sister, my aunt, you know, and I think it's my 12th AA anniversary, you know, and this is like probably 98, '08. This is probably like 2009 or something, you know, and it's a big church, big gym. It's probably 150 people in that room, you know, and my mom's there. My brother came and he brought one of my nieces, and so my mom, you know, any family and friends want to say anything about the celebrants, you know, and so I'm looking and I'm like, oh no. So she's got her hand up, you know, she's got her hand up. And I'm like, uh-oh, you know, and so she stood up and, you know, she's got the floor. Yeah, I don't know what y'all people doing in here, but thank y'all for giving me my baby back, you know. And the room just went crazy. I'm crying, you know, and I'm crying, you know, like not ashamed crying, but just like crying, tears of joy and just like, oh my goodness, that's my mom, you know. I wouldn't expect anything less. That's a mom for you, you know. So she said, I'm just happy you got my baby back. And so I'm doing this amends thing with her. We're riding around in my car. I took the week off and it's raining. And, you know, I'm making this amends. And she says, you know what? You don't owe me anything. You know, just keep doing what you're doing. You know, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, it just like this is Alcoholics Anonymous working in my life. God had came in here and restored me to this form of sanity that I'd never even imagined was possible for me. I'm nuts. You know, people used to tell me that it's my name, Crazy Ricky, you know? Like I did some things that were just kind of outlandish, not even bad things that, you know, law breaking, but just crazy stuff, you know? Like just, oh my goodness. And now here I am. It's like God is running my life, you know? He lets me be in the driver's seat, but I know he's in charge. You know what I'm saying? I have to be in the driver's seat. But God knows that, like, I know that God knows that I know that he's in charge. You know, I can't run anything without him. He's at the forefront of my life. So the 6 and 7 and 8 and 9, you know, and these things just like wasn't something that I was interested in doing before I got here. But I know if I was to not keep not drinking, I had to go through with this process fully. You know, not just kind of like, you know, I'll get to them later. You know, I got a defense against that. You know, I don't have to run and hide from the people that I encounter in Walmart. You know, maybe some of these people that I hurt. And before it used to be like, oh my goodness, there's Joe Blow, and I duck down the other aisle. You know, and now if I see him, you know, I'm walking right up to him. What's up? How you doing? You know, if I owe him something, I give it to him. You know, if I'm making an amends to him for anything, it's like, hey, you know me, you know how I was, I've changed now, and I don't even talk about Alcoholics Anonymous to him, you know. I just let him know that, like, yeah, man, I'm doing good, and if you need anything, let me know. I'll be there for you. I love being sober. I'm telling you, I mean, like, this is, oh my goodness, I love, love, love being sober. And so for me, you know, I am at the part of, you know, this journey of mine, you know, what happened, what it's like, and what it's like now. You know, that was my journey. I'm no expert at getting through the steps, but I did the best I could with the information I had to get to where I need to be right now. And that's just, you know, I'm happy, I'm joyous, I'm free. I have a God in my life, and I do the best I can to be of maximum service to him. And so I can't rest on that, you know. 10, 11, and 12, you know, 10, 11, and 12. It's like, you know, it's like the cherries on my cheesecake, you know. I built this fine structure, you know, nice graham crackers and butter, you know, and that's my base. And then I get me some good cream cheese and all the other ingredients. And then right on top of that is my 10, 11, and 12, you know. I love this program, you know. Continue to improve and continue. It means I got to keep working, you know. I have to keep working at this because if I rest on my laurels, I've seen too many other men and women, you know, that have been around here a lot longer than me. You know, they stop showing up, they stop being of service, which is my ultimate responsibility, is to be of maximum service to God and those about me. You know, that's the purpose of this for me. And I see too many other people that get too many years, you know, but they don't have enough time. And then ultimately what happens is, you know, life will start to hit them a little bit harder than it did yesterday, and they stop showing up. And you know what? They say, hey, I'm a newcomer again. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that human being that just turns my back on this, because I hate to think, you know, if I got what I deserved, where I'd be, you know. Think about it. I mean, for me, man. So I am blessed. I'm highly favored, you know. And so I have a service commitment in the Bronx Big Book Study. I love that book. I keep it right here, you know. And so I get to guide a lot of people through it, you know. It's an honor, you know, it's a privilege, you know, it's not an inconvenience. I talk to them about our experience, not mine own personally, but like what's happened to the other millions and millions and millions of men and women that have found this solution. This is what I go to, you know. I talk a little bit about my drinking, but like, here's what I talk about. What are you going to do about it if you want to stop and stay stopped and be happy about that prospect? Get into this book right here, you know, because I came in here and I'm this guy. You know, if when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit completely, or if when drinking you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. Oh my goodness, sign me up, right? If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. I'm honest with that. I tell them you may be able to stop for a little bit, but like, how happy are you going to be about it? I don't want to stop on some condition, you know, I don't. I did that too many times, and once those conditions are satisfied, I pick the drink up again. I was in the army. I was stationed in Bad Kissingen, West Germany, and I went down in the town and did a little vandalism, jumped on a couple of cars. I like to see how far we can jump from one roof to another. Got caught by the German police, sent to base, and got restricted to post for like 14 days. Article 15, they took like $600 from me, and they said, you can't drink for 14 days. The countdown was on, you know? Like, I wasn't thinking about the trouble. I was thinking about when I could next drink again. That's insanity, you know? I remember when I first enlisted, went to basic training, it's gonna be 9 weeks of no drinking, you know? But at the end of the cycle, I get 2 beers. Know what I was thinking about? I'm doing push-ups and shooting and running and cleaning, and I'm thinking about getting those 2 beers. That's the obsession I had with alcohol. God broke that for me, you know? And so I don't ever want to give up on this thing too soon, at all. And so I keep showing up, I come out on, man, you know what? I thank God for Zoom, because back in 2020, when this thing was starting to jump off, I was afraid. My meetings were shutting down, and I'm a meeting a day guy twice on the weekends. And, like something was happening in this world that I wasn't in control of. Wasn't really fearful. It was just that, like, what am I going to do for meetings now? And then boom, Zoom popped off. And so through a little bit of trial and error, and I found a couple of meetings that I got hooked up with that were about this book, about this book. And so I hooked up with them, and it's kept me sustained. And then in probably about like the end of July, August 2020, I found a Bronx Big Book Study. Oh my goodness, rocketed, still rocketed. And I show up there and I try to be of service as best I can. I lead a meeting there on Friday nights. That's a shameless plug for me, but I lead a meeting there on Friday nights. I just get to be a part of a group of men and women, that's trying to stay over this drink problem, I mean, like, oh my goodness, I'm lucky, I'm blessed, luck is the residue of hard work, that's what I was told. But these blessings that God had bestowed upon me and everybody that's here is just something that, like, I never thought I deserved, So I keep showing up here. I mean, 10, 11, and 12, continue to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it, I could go a couple of hours because I know what I did, and it starts to eat at me. And so then I got to do something about it, because if not, it's going to go back to the recesses. It's going to start to build again, and then I'm going to owe a 4th step on that thing. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but I own them more sooner than later. Because if it's too late for a lot of us, it's going to be too late, period. I'll be thinking about a drink again if I'm not drinking, and so continue to take personal inventory, and we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Sought through prayer and meditation. That means I got to do some more work on building this relationship with God. I don't understand him, like maybe he likes to take a break. And so every now and then I think, like, maybe, hey, God, I'm still down here. I need you. And he's right back on my side again. So I have to continue to seek him, continue to seek him. That's an action word. Seek, seek him. He's out there. He's waiting on you. He's not even lost. I think the thing that just said, that God is not lost was I just said 2 words, help me. And he was right there. Help me, and he was right there. Like, I didn't even have to bargain or beg or plead, or if you do this for me, God, like it was those nights when I'm in the foxhole, get me out of this and I'll never do it again. I just said, help me. And he showed up. No conditions on his love for me, none. I moved to this townhouse that I'm in about probably, I don't even remember how many years ago it was, but I came in and I stood out on the patio right over there, and there's Interstate 84. It runs right there. It's about like a half a mile over there. And down the road, Mill Plain Road, there's this big warehouse, huge warehouse, right? Check this out. So back when I was a new guy, and I used to hear these commercials for Jesus Christ Church of Latter-day Saints. Andy Pettit, he was a pitcher for the Yankees, number 46, right? He would come on, and it was like he was talking to me about building a personal relationship with my own God of my understanding. Number 46, significant number for me, because when I went to this apartment, I stood outside and I looked down the road, and there's this huge warehouse, and the address on this warehouse is number 46. Oh my goodness, it sent chills to me. I get chills thinking about it right now. Like, who knew? Like, I just look over there and I see 46, and I'm like, you're with me. Oh my goodness. Mysterious ways, you know? Like, I love that. So that's why I continue to seek him, and I do the best I can to do things that are pleasing to him. If it's right, it's probably pleasing to God. If it's something that I want to do because I want to do it, I don't think that's a good deal. And so I just do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. I knew about doing the right thing even as a kid. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do because I'm selfish, I'm self-seeking, I'm self-centered, and things ain't going my way. I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. And I did that many times as a kid. And so continued, so sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. I've got the power. I'm in touch with it. It's in me, it's in me. Even though some days I think, God, you're giving me a little bit too much, but like, you got the power, bro. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm in the game, coach. I'm in the game. And so I have to stay suited up. Having had a spiritual awakening, I'm not asleep anymore walking through life. I'm wide awake. A spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. We tried to practice these principles, carry this message to alcoholics and practice these principles in all of our affairs. That's what I do to the best of my ability. I just try to be a good servant to Alcoholics Anonymous, and to those about me. I love being sober. Love being sober. I mean, like, I just think, like, I've always said, like, I didn't come here for this. I just wanted to get my family off back, maybe get a new job, get some new clothes, get a nice apartment, and I was going back to the party, But like you guys, we got something better for you, my brother. We got something better for you. And I never looked back. There was there's a place in Danbury called the Drop-In Club. It's closed now. It was a recovered bar, and they used to have Alcoholics Anonymous meetings in this place, And before I got here, I used to sit across the street at the City Green in Danbury on Saturday mornings, and I'd be like, still drunk, and wondering what these people are doing over there on the sidewalk with these white cups, and they're smoking cigarettes and they're laughing and they're having a good time. And it's 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, what's going on over there? Because I was miserable, restless, irritable, discontented. Just couldn't be alone with myself or anyone else for that matter, And ultimately, I found my way across the street and into this solution to a way of living that I never even bargained for. Like God led me there, and then you guys led me to a God of my understanding, and I never looked back. So I am just awfully grateful. I'm tickled pink. It's almost 9 o'clock. I'm stone cold sober. I'm happy, joy's free. I'm in love with Alcoholics Anonymous and all of you guys, and just like this wonderful fellowship, which saved my life, which I didn't even think I had a life worth saving. So I am just truly, truly, truly grateful to be here. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, group, for having me tonight. Peace and blessings to you all.
Oh my God.